The morning sky above Seoul was clear and blue when the first alien ship appeared. It was massive, bigger than any building humans had ever made. The ship looked like a dark mountain floating in the air. Its surface was smooth and black with strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lee Dae-ho was drinking his morning coffee when every screen in the city suddenly turned white. Then words appeared in perfect Korean, English, Chinese, and every other human language. The message was simple but terrifying. We are the hegemony. You will surrender your planet and become our workers. You have 24 hours to decide. If you refuse, we will destroy everything. Submit or die. Lee Dae-ho put down his coffee cup. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. He had been a captain in the Korean Navy for 15 years. He had seen storms that could sink ships and enemies that wanted to kill him. But he had never seen anything like this. Across the city, people stopped walking, cars pulled over. To the side of the road, everyone was looking up at the massive ship that blocked out the sun. More ships were appearing now. Hundreds of them, thousands, they covered the sky like black clouds. Dr. Park Hae-jin was in her laboratory when the message came. She was one of the smartest people in Korea, maybe in the world. She studied physics and space and how things worked in the universe. But nothing had prepared her for this. The math was impossible. These ships were too big to fly, yet there they were floating like they weighed nothing. The alien message kept repeating every few minutes. It was the same in every language. Submit or die. Work for us, or we will kill you all. Give up your freedom or face complete destruction within 1 hour. Every government on Earth had received the same message. The President of Korea called an emergency meeting. The President of America did the same. Leaders from every country were talking to each other, trying to figure out what to do. Some people wanted to fight, some wanted to hide, some wanted to try talking to the aliens, but most people were just scared. They had never seen anything like this before. The ships were everywhere, over every major city, over military bases, over the ocean. They were too many to count. Lee Dae-ho walked outside and looked up at the ship above Seoul. It was so big it made the whole city feel small. He could see other people on the street. They were all looking up too. Some were crying, some were praying, some were just standing there with their mouths open. A young woman came up to him. She was shaking with fear. What are we going to do? She asked Lee. Dae-ho looked at her, then looked back at the ship. I don't know, he said, but we will figure something out. On the other side of the city, Kim Min-soo was closing his small shop early. The streets were empty now. Everyone had gone home to be with their families. But Kim Min-soo didn't have a family. His wife had died 2 years ago. His children lived far away, so he stood alone in front of his shop looking at the alien ship. He had lived through hard times before. When he was young, there had been wars and famines and times when people said the world was ending. But he had always survived. He had always found a way to keep going, and he was not going to give up. Now Kim Min-soo went back into his shop and found a can of paint. He wrote one word on his window in big red letters, an EVR, in a small village outside the city. Choi Sun-ya was working in her garden. She was an old woman who had been farming all her life. She had grown food through droughts and floods and bad seasons. Nothing had ever stopped her from planting her crops. When the alien message came, she listened to it carefully. Then she went back to her garden and kept working. Her neighbors came to ask her what she was doing. The aliens are going to kill us all, they said. Why are you still planting? Choi Sun-ya looked up at them with dirt on her hands and smiled. If they kill us, she said, then at least we will die doing what we love. If they don't kill us, then we will need food. Either way, these seeds need to go in the ground back. In Seoul, Dr. Park Hae-jin was working with her team. They were trying to understand how the alien ships worked. The ships seemed to ignore gravity. They had no visible engines or propellers. Yet they stayed in the air like they were glued to the sky. Her assistant, Oh Jae-won, came running into the lab. Doctor, he said, the aliens are sending another message. The new message was longer and more detailed. It explained exactly what would happen if humans surrendered. They would become worker slaves, really. They would mine rocks on distant planets. They would build things for their alien masters. They would never see Earth again. Their children would be slaves too, and their children's children. The message also explained what would happen if humans refused. The aliens had weapons that could turn mountains into dust. They could boil the oceans. They could make the air itself catch fire. They had destroyed 1,000 worlds. Before Earth, they had enslaved 1 million different species. Submit or die. The message ended. There is no third choice. Dr. Park Hae-jin read the message twice, then looked at her team. What do you think? She asked. Jaewon spoke first. I think they are telling the truth about their weapons. These ships are beyond anything we understand. Another scientist nodded. The energy readings are incredible. They could probably do everything. They say they can do so. What do we do? Dr. Park asked. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Jaewon smiled. We do what humans always do when someone tries to bully us. We tell them to go away and leave us alone. Around the world, the same conversation was happening in every language. Military leaders were meeting, scientists were working, politicians were arguing, but regular people were making their own decisions. In New York, a police officer named Johnson was directing traffic around the alien ship. He could have gone home and hidden, but instead he stayed at his post, making sure people could get to safety. In Tokyo, an old man named Tanaka was in his workshop. He had spent his whole life building things with his hands. Now he was taking apart old radios, trying to understand how they worked. Maybe he could build something to fight the aliens, maybe not, but he had to try. In London, a young mother named Sarah was reading a story to her children. The alien ship cast a shadow over their house, but she kept reading because children needed stories, especially when the world was scary. The 24 hours were almost up. Leaders from every country had met and talked and argued, but in the end, the decision was not made by governments or armies or smart people in laboratories. The decision was made by ordinary people, people like Kim Min-soo, who painted never on his window, people like Choi Soon-ya, who kept planting seeds, people like Lee Dae-ho, who looked at the biggest threat humanity had ever faced and decided to stand up to it. When the aliens demanded an answer, they got one. It came from every radio station, every television channel, every computer screen in the world. The message was short and simple and the same in every language. No, that was it, just one word, but it was enough. The aliens had given humanity a choice: submit or die, and humanity had chosen a third option that the aliens hadn't expected. Fight. The alien ships hung in the sky like storm clouds waiting to strike, but below them 7 billion humans were getting ready to show these invaders that Earth was not for sale at any price. Freedom was worth more than life itself, and humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The war was about to begin. The alien attack began at dawn when most people were still sleeping. The first beam of energy came down from the largest ship over Seoul. It was bright blue and made no sound, but when it hit the ground, everything turned to dust. Buildings that had stood for decades simply disappeared, leaving only empty space where they used to be. Lee Dae-ho was in his command bunker deep underground. When the bombing started, the bunker shook like an earthquake, but the thick concrete walls held his radio. Operator Lieutenant Yoon Dae-yoon was trying to contact military bases around the world. Most of them were not answering, sir, she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. We have lost contact with the main airbase. The Navy headquarters is gone. The President bunker is not responding. Lee Dae-ho looked at the maps on his wall. Red dots marked where alien attacks were happening. There were red dots everywhere. America was being hit. Europe was under attack. Asia was burning. The aliens were attacking the whole world at the same time. How many planes do we still have? He asked. Yoon Dae-yoon checked her computer. Maybe 50, sir. Most of our pilots are requesting permission to take off. They want to fight. Lee Dae-ho nodded. Send them up. All of them, even the training pilots, even the old planes that we use for practice. Tell them to aim for the small ships first. Above ground, the sky was filled with fire. Alien ships hung in the air like metal mountains, shooting down beams of energy that turned everything they touched into ash. The city of Seoul was disappearing piece by piece. Streets that Lee Dae-ho had walked as a child were now just craters in the ground, but humans were fighting back. Fighter jets roared up from hidden airfields. Their missiles were small compared to the alien weapons, but the pilots fired them anyway. They knew most of them would not come home. They flew anyway because it was better to die fighting than to die hiding. Nam Ji-tae was one of the pilots taking off from a secret base outside the city. He had been flying for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien ships were huge and covered with weapons that could shoot in every direction. His F-16 looked like a toy compared to them. Stay low, he told the other pilots in his squadron. Use the mountains for cover. Hit them fast, then get away before they can shoot back. The first attack run was a disaster. The alien ships had shields that stopped human missiles like they were throwing rocks. The energy weapons moved faster than the pilots could dodge. 3 planes were shot down in the first minute, But Namjaite kept flying. He led his remaining planes in a second attack, then a third. We are not even scratching them. His wingman said over the radio. Then we keep trying. Namjaite replied, if we cannot hurt them, maybe we can annoy them in the underground bunker. Dr. Park Hyjin was studying pieces of a shot-down alien scout ship. The metal was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was light as aluminum, but stronger than steel. The power source was completely unknown to human science. Her team worked frantically trying to understand how the alien technology worked. They had maybe hours before the aliens decided to stop playing and just destroy everything. They needed to find a weakness, any weakness that could help humanity fight back. Doctor. Her assistant OJ1 called out, look at this power coupling. When I touch these two parts together, the whole thing starts to vibrate. Dr. Park came over to look. The alien device was humming with energy, but it was an unstable kind of energy. It reminded her of something from her university physics classes, a resonance cascade, something that could build up until it exploded. Keep working on that, she told OJ1. If we can make their own power source explode, maybe we have a chance. Above ground, ordinary people were doing extraordinary things. Kim Min-soo, the shopkeeper, had armed himself with an old hunting rifle. When an alien scout landed in his neighborhood, he was the first one to shoot at it. His bullets bounced off the alien armor, but he kept shooting. Other people joined him. The alien soldier was surprised. Everywhere else, the hegemony had conquered. Primitive species ran away when they saw advanced technology, but these humans were running toward danger, not away from it. The alien raised its energy weapon, but Kim Min-soo had already ducked behind a car. The alien soldier had been trained to fight other aliens with energy shields and advanced armor. It had not been trained to fight humans who hid behind garbage cans and threw bottles and shot old-fashioned bullets. The human tactics made no sense, but they were working. In her village, Choi Sunya was teaching her neighbors how to make bombs from farm chemicals. She had learned about explosives during the war when she was young. Now she was sharing that knowledge with anyone who would listen. Mix the fertilizer with this, she explained to a group of farmers. Add some fuel oil and you get a bomb. It will not hurt their big ships, but it might stop their soldiers. The farmers listened carefully. They were scared, but they were also angry. These aliens had come from across the galaxy to destroy their homes, to kill their families, to take away everything they had worked for. They would fight with whatever they had across the world. Similar scenes were playing out. In every city and every town, humans were refusing to give up. A teacher in London was showing children how to hide from alien patrols. A mechanic in Detroit was building armor from car parts. A grandmother in Mumbai was making Molotov cocktails from old bottles. The aliens had expected mass panic. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, and it always went the same way. First there was shock, then fear, then surrender, but humans were different. Humans got angry. Colonel Namjaite landed his damaged fighter at a hidden airstrip. He had been shot down twice, but each time he had managed to get his plane back to base. His mechanic Lim So Young was waiting for him. Sir, she said, we can fix the engine, but the weapon system is completely destroyed. Namjaite looked at his plane. It was full of holes, and half the instruments were not working, but it could still fly. Can you mount some of those alien power cores we captured on the wings? He asked. Lim So Young thought about it. It would be dangerous, sir. If they explode while you are flying, then I will fly them into an alien ship. Namjaite said, if we are going to die anyway, we might as well take some of them with us. The second day of the war began with humanity still fighting. The aliens had destroyed most of the major cities. They had wiped out entire military bases. They had killed millions of people, but humans were still saying Nolideho. Received reports from around the world. The news was mostly bad, but there were some good things too. The aliens were losing soldiers. Human fighters were learning to avoid the big weapons and attack the smaller ships. Some alien equipment had been captured, and scientists were studying it. We are like ants fighting elephants. Lieutenant Yun said. Lee Daeho smiled grimly. Yes, he said, but elephants can be killed by ants if there are enough ants, and they are angry enough. The alien commander Vextari was studying reports from the battle. He had expected the human resistance to collapse after the first day of bombing. Instead, it seemed to be getting stronger. Human attacks were becoming more organized, more effective. These humans are learning our tactics faster than any species we have encountered, he told his staff. They adapt to every weapon we use against them. Perhaps we should try negotiating. His second-in-command suggested. Vextari shook his 4 eyes. No, we will increase the attacks. They will break eventually, all species do, but as the alien ships prepared for another day of war, they faced an enemy unlike any they had fought before, an enemy that got stronger every time it was hit, an enemy that learned from every defeat. An enemy that would rather die than surrender. The first strike had failed to break humanity. Instead, it had taught humans how to fight back, and that was the aliens' first mistake. 3 weeks had passed since the first alien attack, and the world looked like a different place. Most of the big cities were gone, turned into smoking ruins by alien weapons, but in the underground tunnels and hidden bunkers humans were doing something the aliens had never seen before. They were learning. Dr. Park Hyjin had not slept for 3 days straight. Her underground laboratory was now filled with pieces of alien technology that her teams had collected from crashed ships and fallen soldiers. She had figured out something important about how the alien power systems worked. The key is the resonance frequency, she explained to a group of scientists and military officers who had gathered around her workbench. Every alien device operates on the same energy wavelength. If we can build transmitters that send out the right signal, we can make their equipment malfunction. Lee Daeho leaned forward to get a better look at the device she was holding. It looked like a radio made from alien parts and human electronics. How do we build enough of these to make a difference? We do not need to build many, Dr. Park said with a tired smile. We just need to build them big enough. The alien ships all share the same power network. If we can get one of these devices close to their main ship, we can cause a chain reaction. In Detroit, mechanic Len Seo Young was working on a different kind of breakthrough. She had been studying pieces of alien armor that had been brought to her workshop. The armor looked impossible to damage, but she had discovered something interesting about how it worked. The armor is designed to stop energy weapons, she explained to Nam Ji-Ite, who had come to see her work. It spreads out heat and electricity across its whole surface. But look what happens when I hit it with this. She picked up an old-fashioned hammer and struck the alien armor as hard as she could. The energy field flickered and a crack appeared in the metal surface. Kinetic impact, she said, grinning. It can stop lasers and plasma bolts, but it cannot stop good old-fashioned force. We just need to hit them harder around the world. Humans were making similar discoveries in London. A group of engineers had figured out how to jam alien communication systems. In Tokyo, scientists were learning to copy alien metalworking techniques. In Mumbai, doctors were studying alien biology to find weak points, but the most important discoveries were being made by ordinary people who had no scientific training. Kim Min-soo, the shopkeeper, had become an expert at urban warfare. He knew every hiding place in his neighborhood, every rooftop where a sniper could hide, every alley where fighters could set ambush. The aliens always attack the same way, he told a group of resistance fighters. They come down the main streets with their big vehicles. They never expect us to attack from above or from the sides. He had organized the people in his area into small fighting groups. Each group had a specific job. Some groups would attack alien patrols and then disappear. Other groups would rescue wounded fighters or gather intelligence about alien movements. Still, other groups would sabotage alien equipment when they were not looking. Choi Sunya had turned her farm into a weapons factory. She was teaching people how to make explosives from household chemicals, how to build radio jammers from old television parts, how to create smoke screens from burning tires. The old woman who had spent her life growing food was now growing a different kind of crop. The aliens think we are stupid because our technology is primitive, she told her students. But stupid people do not survive farming for 60 years. We know how to be patient, how to work with what we have, how to make something from nothing. Her farm had become a training center where city people learned country skills that were suddenly very useful. How to hide in forests, how to find food in the wild, how to move without making noise, how to think like prey until it was time to become predators. The alien soldiers were getting nervous. They had been trained to fight other high-tech armies that used energy weapons and force fields. They knew how to battle enemies who fought like they did, but humans fought like nothing they had ever encountered. Human fighters would attack a patrol and then vanish into buildings or sewers before reinforcements could arrive. They would leave behind booby traps made from alien power cores that would explode. When touched, they would use their own dead bodies as bait to lure aliens into ambush. Captain Yu Dong Hyan had been a simple soldier when the war started, but now he was leading a group of fighters who specialized in capturing alien equipment. They had learned to work together like a pack of wolves surrounding their prey, isolating individual aliens and overwhelming them with numbers. The key is never to fight fair, he told his team. We are weaker than they are, so we have to be smarter. We attack when they are not ready, we disappear when they fight back, we make them afraid to leave their ships. His team had captured an alien transport vehicle in Lim. Co. Young had modified it with human weapons and armor. Now it looked like a metal monster covered in spikes and guns driven by humans, who had painted their faces like ancient warriors. Dr. Park Hyjin. Breakthrough came at 3 in the morning when she was so tired she could barely think straight. She was testing her resonance device on a piece of alien equipment when something unexpected happened. The alien metal began to sing. It was a high-pitched sound that hurt human ears but seemed to affect alien technology in strange ways. Other alien devices in the lab began to react, vibrating and sparking. The frequency was spreading from one device to another like an infection. This is it, she whispered to herself. This is how we win. She immediately called Lee Dae-ho on the emergency radio. Sir, we have found their weakness. Their technology is all connected. If we can hit them with the right frequency, we can shut down everything at once. How big would the transmitter need to be? Lee Dae-ho asked. Big, she admitted. Very big, and we would need to get it very close to their main fleet, but if it works, all their ships would lose power at the same time. Meanwhile, human fighters were learning to use captured alien weapons. Dong Hyan teams had figured out how to operate alien vehicles. Non-GIT pilots were flying captured alien fighters that had been modified with human controls. Even Kim Min-soo had gotten his hands on an alien energy rifle, though he still preferred his old hunting gun. The aliens do not understand us, a captured alien soldier told its human interrogators. Through a translation device, your species should have surrendered by now. You cannot win this war with primitive weapons, the human interrogator was. Oh, Jae-won, who had volunteered for the job because he was curious about how aliens thought. Maybe we cannot win, he said, but we are not going to lose either. We are going to keep fighting until one of us is dead. The alien soldier looked confused. This makes no logical sense. Your casualties are enormous. Your cities are destroyed. You have no chance of victory. Oh, Jae-won smiled. That is where you are wrong. We have already won. The moment we decided not to surrender, we won. We might all die, but we will die free, and that scares you more than our weapons. By the end of the 3rd week, humanity had changed. The people who survived were harder, smarter, more dangerous. They had learned to think like soldiers, to fight like guerrillas, to adapt like evolution. And fast-forward, children who should have been in school were now learning to operate alien equipment. Grandparents who should have been resting were teaching young fighters the patience needed for perfect shots. Teachers who should have been giving lessons were instead giving lessons on how to build bombs. Lim Sao Young had perfected her kinetic weapons. Human bullets fired from modified guns could now punch through alien armor. Engineers had figured out how to make the bullets go faster by using captured alien propulsion technology. Dr. Park had built her first large-scale resonance transmitter. It was the size of a truck and needed enormous amounts of power, but test runs showed it could disable alien equipment from several kilometers away. Non-GIT had trained a new generation of pilots who flew like maniacs because they had nothing left to lose. They attacked alien formations with suicide runs that no sane military would attempt. But somehow they kept surviving. The aliens were facing something they had never encountered before, an enemy that got stronger every time they were hurt, an enemy that learned from every mistake, an enemy that refused to accept that the war was impossible to win. Humanity was evolving, and the aliens were starting to realize that maybe they had made a terrible mistake. 6 months after the aliens first demanded surrender, something happened that had never occurred in galactic history. A primitive species was about to defeat the mighty hegemony fleet. The battle was going to take place over the ruins of New York, where Admiral Lee Dae-ho had gathered every human ship that could still fly. Human fleet was a strange sight to see. Old fishing boats floated next to military destroyers. Cargo planes flew alongside fighter jets. Submarines that had been modified to work in space moved next to civilian aircraft that had been turned into weapons. Everything that could carry Dr. Park Hyjin resonance devices had been pressed into service. Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, a ship that had been built from pieces of crashed alien vessels and human technology. The ship looked like it had been put together by children playing with blocks, but it was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever created. All units, this is Admiral Lee, he broadcast. On every radio frequency today we show these invaders that Earth belongs to us. We have been slaves to fear for too long. Today we become free. The alien fleet was impressive to look at. Sleek silver ships that gleamed in the sunlight, arranged in perfect formations like they were on parade. The flagship was the size of a small city and bristled with weapons that could destroy planets. Overlord Kethrin, the alien commander, looked at the approaching human forces with amusement. Look at their pathetic fleet, he told his officers. Scrap metal held together with hope. We will crush them in minutes. But the humans had learned from every battle they had fought. Instead of attacking head-on like a traditional fleet, they spread out in all directions. Like seeds blown by the wind, Lieutenant Yun now commanded her own squadron of fighters that had been modified with alien technology. Remember, she told her pilots over the radio, they think in straight lines, we think in curves. They expect us to be logical. We are going to be crazy. The battle began when the first human ships opened fire. But instead of trying to destroy the alien vessels, they were aiming for something else. Dr. Park had identified the communication relays that connected all the alien ships together. If those relays were destroyed, the alien fleet would lose coordination. Nam Jite led the first attack wave, flying a fighter that looked more like a flying junk pile than a military aircraft. Behind him came dozens of other pilots, each one flying something different. Some flew captured alien ships. Others flew human planes that had been rebuilt so many times they were barely recognizable. Alien defenses were devastating. Human ships exploded by the dozens as energy beams swept across space, but for every ship that was destroyed, two more appeared from hiding places among the wreckage of old battlefields. Dong Haiyan was piloting a converted cargo ship that had been loaded with every weapon his team could find. When alien fighters swarmed around his ship, he did something no military manual would ever recommend. He rammed his ship directly into the middle of the alien formation. For everyone they killed, he screamed into his radio. As his ship tore through, alien fighters like a battering ram. The aliens had superior weapons and better armor, but they were not prepared for enemies who fought like this. Human tactics made no sense by military standards, but they were working. The alien formations were breaking apart as human ships attacked from impossible angles. Ozar Park Haijin was aboard a submarine that had been converted for space combat. She was personally operating the largest resonance transmitter ever built, waiting for the moment when the human fleet could get close enough to the alien flagship. The power readings are off the charts, she told her team. This thing is going to work, but we only get one shot. If we miss, the aliens will know what we are trying to do. Captain Kim Min-soo was flying his own ship now, a modified transport that he had painted with the same word he had written on his shop window. Never. His crew was made up of shopkeepers and farmers and teachers who had become warriors. Stay close to me, he told them over the intercom. We are going to fly right up to that big ship and give them a present they will never forget. The battle raged for hours. Human ships kept appearing from everywhere. It seemed like every piece of metal that could fly had been turned into a weapon. Children were flying radio-controlled planes loaded with explosives. Old men were piloting gliders that had been fitted with alien energy weapons. Lim Seongyang had managed to capture an entire alien cruiser and was now using it to attack other alien ships. Her crew had painted human symbols all over the alien hull and were firing captured weapons at their former owners. This is for Seoul, she shouted as her guns tore into an alien destroyer. This is for everyone who died. The turning point came when Nam Jite managed to destroy the main communication relay on the alien flagship. Suddenly, the perfect alien formations became chaos as ships lost contact with their commanders. Human fighters swarmed through the gaps like angry wasps. Dr. Park saw her chance. The alien flagship was close enough and distracted by multiple attacks. She activated her resonance transmitter and aimed it directly at the alien power core. The effect was immediate. The alien flagship began to shake as its own energy systems turned against it. Other alien ships that were connected to the flagship started to malfunction as the resonance frequency spread through their network. What is happening? Overlord Kethrin demanded as his ship systems began to fail. The humans have weaponized our own technology, his science officer replied in panic. They are using our power grid against us. One By one, the alien ships began to lose power, their weapons stopped firing, their shields failed, their engines shut down. The mighty hegemony fleet was being destroyed by their own energy systems. Lee Daeho watched in amazement as the alien flagship began to fall toward Earth, spinning helplessly as its power cores overloaded. The impossible was happening. Humans were winning. All units, he broadcast, press the attack. They are helpless. Now show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The remaining human ships swarmed over the disabled alien vessels. Some aliens tried to surrender, but they were ignored. Humanity had learned to be merciless in war. The aliens had taught them that lesson well. When the alien flagship finally crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, it created a tsunami that could be seen from space, but the humans did not care. They had won their first major victory against an enemy that was supposed to be unbeatable. Overlord Catherine final transmission was broadcast across the galaxy requesting immediate evacuation. Human forces have achieved technological parity. Repeat, the primitives are no longer primitive. This species is dangerous. All units withdraw immediately. The message was received by the Galactic Council with shock and disbelief. A primitive species had just defeated a hegemony battle fleet using weapons built from scrap metal and determination. But Lee Daeho was not finished. He opened a communication channel directly to the alien homeworld and spoke in a calm, clear voice. This is Admiral Lee Daeho of the Earth Defense Force. You came to our world and demanded our surrender. You killed our people and destroyed our cities. He paused to let his words sink in. Now we are coming for you. We will not stop until every world you have enslaved is free. We will not negotiate. We will not show mercy. You taught us what war really means. Now you will learn what happens when humans go to war. The broadcast ended, and the human fleet began to collect alien technology from the wreckage. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. Now they had ships that could travel between stars, weapons that could destroy planets, and most importantly, they had proven that the alien empire could be beaten. Humanity was no longer trapped on Earth. They were about to become the galaxy's most dangerous species, and it was all because the aliens had made one critical mistake. They had given humans a reason to fight. 1 year after the great victory over Earth, human ships were leaving the solar system for the first time, but they were not going out to explore or trade. They were going to hunt. The aliens had made the mistake of showing humanity that faster than light travel was possible, and Dr. Park Hyjim had spent months figuring out how to make it work. The human version of alien jump drives were different. Where alien technology was smooth and elegant, human modifications were rough and brutal. Human ships could jump farther and faster than alien vessels, but the rides were bumpy and dangerous. Nobody cared. The goal was not comfort, it was war. Captain Yu Donghayan now commanded the first human ship to leave the solar system. His crew was made up of soldiers and civilians who had lost everything in the alien invasion. They had painted their ship black and covered it with the names of every human city that had been destroyed. Remember what they did to us, he told his crew as they approached their first target. We are not here to conquer, we are here to liberate, and we are here for revenge. The target was a mining colony where the aliens used slave workers from a dozen different species. The colony was supposed to be heavily defended, but the human attack came without warning and from an impossible direction. Yu Donghayan had jumped his ship directly into the planet atmosphere, something alien pilots would never attempt. The attack lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the alien overseers were dead or captured and the slave workers were free, but Yu Donghayan was not interested in taking prisoners. He was interested in sending a message. He activated the colony communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. Any species enslaved by the hegemony is now under human protection. Fight with us, and we will fight for your freedom. Refuse to help your oppressors, and we will leave you alone. Help the aliens, and we will treat you as enemies. The response was immediate across the colony. Alien slave species began to turn on their masters. Some of them had been enslaved for generations and had forgotten what freedom felt like, but when they saw humans fighting aliens with nothing but determination and improvised weapons, they remembered. The Cathani were brilliant engineers who had been forced to build alien ships for 50 years. They offered to help humans improve their technology. The Mordaki were fierce warriors who had been turned into manual laborers. They picked up weapons and joined human boarding parties. Word of the liberation spread faster than human ships could travel. Species that had been enslaved began to sabotage alien equipment to steal weapons to organize resistance movements. The galaxy was catching fire, and humans were providing the spark. Admiral Lideho now commanded a fleet of captured alien vessels that had been modified with human technology and crewed by freed slaves. His flagship had been built from the wreckage of the first alien ship to attack Earth, and he had named it Never Surrender. The aliens are learning to fear us, he told his officers during a briefing aboard the flagship, but fear makes them more dangerous. We have liberated 17 worlds, but they still control thousands. We need to hit them harder and faster. Dr. Park Hyjin had established research stations on every liberated world. Each station was working on new weapons and technologies. Her latest creation was terrifying in its simplicity: automated ships that could jump into an alien system, deploy EMP weapons, and jump away before the enemy could respond. We call them freedom seeds, she explained to a group of alien scientists who had joined the human cause. Plant them anywhere oppression grows. They will shut down alien defenses and prepare the way for liberation fleets. The freedom seeds were small ships, no bigger than fighters, but they carried Dr. Park most advanced resonance weapons. When a seed jumped into an alien system, it would immediately scan for alien technology and begin broadcasting frequencies that would disable their equipment. Nam Jaite was now commanding human ground forces that specialized in liberation warfare. His troops did not just defeat alien armies, they taught enslaved populations how to defeat aliens themselves. Every world they freed became a fortress against alien counterattacks. The key is not to do the fighting for them, he explained to his officers. We teach them to fight, we give them weapons, we show them that aliens can be killed, then we move on to the next world. Every species we liberate becomes part of our army. His methods were working. On worlds where human forces had passed through, enslaved species were forming their own militias, building their own weapons, launching their own attacks against alien outposts. The rebellion was spreading faster than any army could travel. Kim Min-soo was now governing a liberated world, teaching alien species about human concepts like democracy and individual rights. The former shopkeeper had become a diplomat, but he still kept his old hunting rifle mounted on the wall behind his desk. Freedom is not something you can give to someone, he told a gathering of newly liberated alien leaders. Freedom is something you have to take for yourself. We can help you fight, but you have to choose to be free. The results were remarkable. Species that had been slaves for centuries were suddenly forming, governments holding elections, building schools. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Conquerors who gave away their conquests to the people they had freed, but not everyone wanted to be liberated. Some species had been slaves for so long they were afraid of freedom. Some alien overseers tried to convince their slaves that humans were worse than the hegemony. Some worlds resisted liberation attempts. Su Donghayan encountered this problem when his fleet arrived at a heavily industrialized world. The slave species there refused to rebel even when offered weapons and support. They begged the humans to leave them alone, saying they were happy as they were. We cannot force them to be free, he told his crew over the ship intercom, but we can make sure their masters never use them against us. The solution was elegant. The humans disabled every weapon on the planet, destroyed the communication systems, and left. They did not harm the slaves, but they made sure the world could never contribute to the alien war effort. Other human commanders used different tactics. Lim So Young had become expert at psychological warfare. She would broadcast messages to alien worlds telling them exactly when human fleets would arrive and what would happen to any aliens found oppressing others. As the fear factor is our greatest weapon, she explained to her staff. Aliens who surrender before we arrive are treated as prisoners of war. Aliens who resist are killed. Aliens who abuse slaves after we warn them are made examples of. Word spreads. Her reputation had become so fearsome that some alien governors would flee their worlds just at the news that her fleet was approaching. Entire planets would surrender without a shot being fired. Galactic Council was in panic mode. Their mighty hegemony was collapsing faster than they could send reinforcements. Human fleets were appearing everywhere, attacking multiple worlds simultaneously, then disappearing before help could arrive. 47 colonies have fallen to human forces, Councillor Vextari reported. To the emergency session, 68 more are under siege. The rebels are joining them on every world. Our casualty reports are impossible to believe. How can primitives be killing trained hegemony? Soldiers, another counselor, demanded. They are not primitives anymore, Vextari replied grimly. They have become something new, something we have never seen before. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for an idea, and ideas are harder to kill than armies. The humans had indeed become something new. They were no longer the desperate defenders of a single world. They had become the galaxy liberators, traveling from star to star, freeing slaves and toppling empires. Their ships carried not just weapons, but teachers and engineers and doctors, who helped freed worlds build better societies. Every victory brought new allies. Species that had been enemies for millennia found common ground under human leadership. The galaxy was being united not by conquest, but by a shared desire for freedom, and at the center of it all was humanity, a species that had looked at certain death just 2 years earlier and simply refused to accept it. Now they were reshaping the galaxy in their image, one liberated world at a time. 3 years had passed since the aliens first demanded Earth surrender, and the galaxy looked completely different. The great crystal chamber where the Galactic Council once met now served a new purpose. It was the meeting hall for the Galactic Liberation Alliance, and today Admiral Lee Deho was standing where alien overlords had once threatened humanity. Members of the former Galactic Council, Lee Deho began, his voice calm but filled with authority. You once offered us a choice: surrender or die. Today we offer you the same choice, but with one important difference. When we say surrender, we mean join us as equals, not as slaves. Behind him stood representatives from over 200 liberated worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries now sat as free beings in the same chamber, where their enslavement had been decided. The sight was something that would have been impossible under alien rule. Counselor Vextari looked around the chamber with his 4 eyes dim with defeat. Half the seats were empty because their former occupants had either surrendered already or fled to the far edges of the galaxy. The mighty hegemony fleet was scattered, its colonies liberated, its slave species free. What guarantee do we have that you will not treat us as we treated others? Vextari asked, his voice barely a whisper. Dr. Park Hyjin stepped forward. Her hair was now completely gray from years of desperate research and sleepless nights working to free the galaxy, but her eyes were bright with the satisfaction of seeing her work complete. Because we are human, she said simply. We do not enslave beings, we liberate them. We do not conquer worlds, we free them. Every world we have taken from you, we have immediately given to its people. It was true on every world humans had conquered, they had immediately established democratic governments, freed all slaves, and begun teaching self-defense. The galaxy had never seen conquerors who gave away their conquests to the people. They freed Commander Namjiite, now wearing the insignia of the Galactic Liberation Force, stepped up to address the remaining alien counselors. Your species have knowledge and skills that the galaxy needs. Your technology could help us rebuild what the hegemony destroyed. Join us willingly, and you will have a voice in the new government. The offer was unprecedented throughout galactic history. Conquest had always meant subjugation. The victor enslaved the defeated and took their resources, but humanity was offering partnership to their former enemies. We have seen what you do to those who join you voluntarily, said Counselor Mordick from his floating pod. The Kethani engineers are now equal partners in your fleet design. The Mordaki warriors serve alongside human soldiers as equals, not as servants. That is correct, Lideho replied. We judge beings by their actions, not their species. If you help us build a free galaxy, you will be welcomed. If you try to rebuild the old empire of slavery, you will be stopped. One by one, the remaining council members began to surrender, but they were not surrendering out of fear of death. They were surrendering because they wanted to be part of something they had never seen before, a galaxy where every species was free. Captain Yu Donghayan now commanded the largest fleet in known space, received the surrenders from hegemony forces across the galaxy. Each time he offered the same terms: join the liberation, help free others, become part of something greater than conquest. The transformation was remarkable. Species that had been bitter enemies for thousands of years found common ground under human mediation. The humans had a gift for bringing people together around shared values like freedom, And Dignity Lem Sao Young had become humanity chief diplomat. Her body was scarred from battles across dozens of worlds, but her mind was sharp as ever. She negotiated not just surrenders but alliances between species that had never trusted each other. The secret, she explained to newly liberated worlds, is that we do not try to make everyone the same. We celebrate what makes each species unique, but we insist that everyone be free to choose their own path. Former shopkeeper Kim Min-soo was now governing an entire sector of space, teaching dozens of species about democracy and individual rights. His small shop had been replaced by a vast office complex, but he still kept the same simple philosophy he had learned on art.